The open road had always been a dream of mine. Miles of endless highway, no schedule, just the freedom to explore. When I bought the RV, I thought it was going to be the start of something great. A cross-country adventure with my wife, Madison, and my best friend, Ryan. A trip we would remember forever. While you're here, leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know. I just didn't realize how right I was. It started like any other road trip. Excitement, playlists, a full tank of gas. We planned to see the best the country had to offer, from the Grand Canyon to Yellowstone, stopping at every odd roadside attraction along the way. The perfect escape from routine. But as we crossed state lines, something felt off. Madison had been distant lately, brushing off my attempts at conversation, spending more time scrolling through her phone than watching the scenery. Every time I reached for her hand, she pulled away, pretending not to notice. At first, I chalked it up to road fatigue. Spending hours on the road could wear anyone down. But then, there were the whispers. The late-night murmurs from the front of the RV when she thought I was asleep. And then, there was the laughter. Somewhere deep in the Arizona desert, we pulled into a secluded campsite. No towns for miles. Just us, the stars, and the quiet hum of the desert wind. Ryan grabbed a beer from the fridge, grinning. "This is what it's all about, man," he said, stretching his legs. "No stress, no deadlines. Just the open road." Madison smiled at him. A little too much. I watched them from the corner of my eye. The way she leaned in when he talked. The way his hand rested just a little too close to hers on the table. It was subtle, but I had known them both for years. It wasn't nothing. Still, I forced myself to ignore it. I wasn't the jealous type. Madison and I had been married for 5 years. Ryan had been my best friend for even longer. I wasn't going to start doubting them now, but doubt doesn't need permission to creep in. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of the RV, listening to the distant sound of crickets outside. Madison had turned in early, claiming exhaustion. Ryan had stayed up, nursing another beer by the fire. Or so I thought. A soft noise drifted through the RV, a quiet laugh. Not from outside, from inside. I shifted carefully, listening. The curtain that separated the sleeping area from the front of the RV was slightly open, letting a thin sliver of light cut across the floor. Another whisper. Then, a giggle. My stomach twisted as I slowly turned my head toward the front of the RV. The dim glow from the dashboard lights cast long shadows over the captain's chair. And that's when I saw it. Madison, straddling someone. The blood drained from my face. My breath caught in my throat. The chair swiveled slightly, and I saw his face. Ryan, my best friend. My pulse slammed in my ears. I should have stormed out. Should have grabbed Ryan by the collar and thrown him out of the RV. Should have screamed. Should have done anything. But I didn't. Instead, I forced myself to stay still, to keep watching, to let the rage settle. Because in that moment, I knew something Ryan and Madison didn't. They thought they were in control. They thought they had gotten away with it. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning, the desert was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel like the last person on earth. Ryan was outside, stretching, breathing in the crisp morning air like he hadn't just betrayed me hours ago. Madison sat on the RV steps, sipping coffee, avoiding my eyes. I played along. I wasn't ready to confront them. Not yet. That would give them a chance to spin it, to deny, to beg for forgiveness they didn't deserve. No, I needed to be patient. I needed to be smart. So I forced a smile, poured myself some coffee, and acted like nothing had changed. "You guys sleep okay?" I asked, voice even. Madison glanced up quickly, forcing a yawn. "Yeah, I crashed early. Must have been all that driving." Ryan grinned, rubbing his jaw. "Same. Man, I think that beer knocked me out." Lies. So many lies. I just nodded, sipping my coffee. "Good. We've got a long drive ahead." Later that afternoon, while they wandered off to take some desert pictures, I stayed behind, searching. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I had a feeling, a gut instinct, that there was something Madison wasn't telling me. And I was right. Buried deep in her suitcase, tucked under a pile of clothes, was a small, wrapped box. I pulled it out slowly, my pulse steady. The wrapping was neat, crisp, the kind of effort Madison never put into my gifts. I turned it over, searching for any kind of tag. Nothing. Just a simple box, about the size of a book, covered in blue paper. I exhaled slowly and peeled the wrapping back. Inside was a leather wallet. Expensive. The kind Ryan liked. But what really made my stomach turn was the engraving on the inside. To new adventures, M. I felt something cold settle in my chest. It wasn't just an affair. This wasn't some one-time mistake. This was planned. She had bought him a gift. I stared at the wallet for a long moment, my grip tightening. Then, I made a decision. If Madison wanted to give Ryan a gift, I'd make sure he never forgot it. That night, after they went to bed, I stayed up, sitting in the driver's seat, staring out at the desert. The RV was quiet, the only sound the occasional gust of wind outside. I reached into my pocket, pulled out Ryan's new wallet, and got to work. A little water, some desert dust, a few well-placed scratches with my knife. Just enough to make it look used, beat up, worthless. Then, for the final touch, I slipped a folded note inside. Hope it was worth it. I put it back in the box, rewrapped it perfectly, and slid it back into Madison's suitcase. Let them enjoy that surprise. The next morning, I woke up to Madison frantically searching through her bag. Ryan sat at the table, rubbing his hands together, yawning. What's wrong? Madison's voice was tense. I can't find something. She froze. She had just found it. Slowly, she pulled out the wrapped box and turned it over in her hands, eyes narrowing. Ryan frowned. What's that? Madison forced a smile. Nothing. Just something I meant to. She hesitated, then shook her head. Never mind. She didn't give it to him. I hid my smirk behind my coffee. She knew something was off. Good. Let her wonder. Let her second-guess every move. Because this was just the beginning. The tension had shifted. Madison was on edge now, more cautious, like a thief who realized too late that they left fingerprints behind. I watched her closely as we drove through the winding desert roads, her fingers tapping anxiously against the dashboard. Every so often, she'd glance back at Ryan, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Ryan, meanwhile, was completely oblivious. He lounged in the passenger seat, flipping through his phone, occasionally throwing out some dumb joke about the heat or the endless miles of sand stretching in every direction. He had no idea that his little surprise had already been tainted. Let them sweat. Let them question. Let them wonder if they were caught. But I wasn't done yet. We stopped at a roadside diner just before sundown, a hole-in-the-wall kind of place that smelled like burnt coffee and old leather seats. The three of us sat at a booth by the window, the neon sign outside flickering weakly against the dimming sky. Madison stirred her iced tea with her straw, not drinking, just thinking. Ryan was busy devouring a plate of chili fries, completely unconcerned. That's when I made my next move. So, Madison, I said casually, setting my fork down. You've been acting a little off the last couple of days. Something on your mind? Her fingers froze around her straw. What? No. Just tired from the drive. Ryan chuckled. Yeah, man. It's been brutal. I don't know how you handle driving for that long. I was knocked out half the trip. I looked directly at Madison when I answered. Yeah. Some people are light sleepers. Her grip tightened on the glass. The corner of my mouth curled. She knew exactly what I meant. Ryan, still oblivious, stuffed another fry in his mouth. Man, I swear, I could sleep through a tornado. Madison let out a nervous laugh, but it was forced. Too tight. Too rehearsed. I leaned back, watching her. Really? That's funny. I thought I heard someone up last night. Guess I must have imagined it. Her head snapped up, eyes flashing with something close to panic. Up? Last night? I shrugged, playing dumb. Yeah, thought I heard voices. But it was probably just the wind. Ryan laughed. Dude, in this heat? There's no wind out here. Madison glared at him, her jaw clenching. She was spiraling, and I wasn't finished. I turned to Ryan. Hey man, by the way, did Madison ever give you that gift? Ryan blinked, confused. What gift? Madison shot me a sharp look, but I kept my face neutral. Oh, never mind, I said, picking up my fork again. Guess it wasn't for you. Her knee bumped the table. She looked like she wanted to grab me by the collar and drag me outside, but she held back. Ryan, completely unaware of the landmine he was sitting on, wiped his hands on a napkin. Well, now I'm curious. What gift? Madison forced a smile. Nothing, just something stupid. It doesn't matter. I raised an eyebrow. You sure? You looked pretty upset about it this morning. Her nostrils flared. Drop it, Jake. Ryan chuckled, raising his hands. All right, no secret gifts. Got it. Madison turned her attention back to her drink, but I saw the way her fingers trembled around the glass. She wasn't mad at me for bringing up the gift. She was mad because she didn't know how much I knew. And that was exactly where I wanted her. That night, back in the RV, Madison barely spoke to me. She kept her distance, her movements stiff, her mind obviously racing. Ryan, still blissfully ignorant, climbed into his bunk and passed out within minutes. I pretended to be asleep, waiting. Just past midnight, Madison's breathing finally slowed. But I could tell she was still awake, her body too still, her mind obviously running through every worst-case scenario. I shifted slightly under the covers. Madison whispered, Jake? I didn't answer. A moment of hesitation. Then, slowly, she got up, slipping toward the front of the RV. I heard the soft rustle of fabric, the quiet creak of the storage cabinets opening and closing. She was checking the gift. I smiled to myself. She was unraveling. And soon, she'd have nothing left to hold on to. The next morning, I watched Madison carefully. She moved differently now, tense, distracted, like she was carrying something heavy in her head. Every few minutes, I caught her glancing toward me, studying my face, probably wondering if I had really been asleep the night before. If I had seen her creeping around in the RV, checking on her ruined gift. She was paranoid. Good. Ryan, still blind to the whole thing, stretched as he climbed out of his bunk, yawning loudly. Man, I slept like a rock. Madison barely looked at him. Yeah. He frowned slightly, rubbing the back of his neck. Everything okay? She forced a smile. Just tired. Ryan accepted the answer easily. I didn't. Maybe you didn't sleep well, I said casually, sipping my coffee. You did get up last night. Her fingers froze around her mug. What? I shrugged, keeping my expression neutral. I heard movement. Thought maybe you were checking something in the front. She hesitated. Oh, yeah. I thought I heard something outside. Ryan frowned. Wait, what? Why didn't you wake me up? She shook her head quickly. It was nothing. Probably an animal. I watched her closely. She was slipping, and I wasn't done pushing. The day passed in a haze of long roads and empty desert. Madison sat in the passenger seat, silent, lost in thought. Ryan was in the back, flipping through his phone, oblivious. I kept the RV rolling forward, but my mind was elsewhere. If Madison was acting this guilty over just a ruined gift, then that meant there was more. A lot more. And I was going to find out exactly what it was. That evening, we stopped at a small, isolated gas station, the only sign of civilization for miles. As Ryan went inside to grab snacks, I lingered by the RV, waiting for the right moment. Madison stood near the door, arms crossed, staring off at the endless stretch of desert. Long trip, I said, testing the waters. She nodded, not looking at me. Yeah. I tilted my head. You seem a little off. Everything all right? She stiffened. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? I shrugged. I don't know. You tell me. Her eyes finally flicked to mine, narrowing slightly. What's that supposed to mean? I held her gaze, letting the silence hang, letting her feel it. She blinked first, shaking her head quickly. Jake, if you have something to say, just say it. I exhaled slowly, feigning hesitation. I guess I've just been noticing things. Her jaw clenched. What things? I pretended to think. Like how you and Ryan have been whispering a lot lately. Or how you've been acting guilty over something. She let out a sharp laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. Oh, come on, Jake. You're being ridiculous. Am I? She crossed her arms tighter, her stance defensive. Yes. You're making something out of nothing. I tilted my head. Then why do you look so nervous? She opened her mouth, then closed it again, struggling to find the right lie. Before she could speak, Ryan stepped out of the gas station, holding a bag of chips. Man, they had nothing good in there. Madison turned quickly toward him, desperate for an escape from the conversation. Yeah? What did you get? I didn't press further. Not yet. Let her sit with it. Let the seed of doubt take root. Because I had just thrown the first real punch. And I knew she wouldn't be able to hide forever. That night, I waited. The RV was parked in another quiet spot, far from any towns, just endless sand and stars. Ryan had gone to bed early, but Madison, she was still awake. I could hear her shifting, her breathing unsteady. She was worried. Finally, she moved. I kept my eyes closed, listening as she crept toward the front of the RV again. Another check. Another frantic search. She was looking for something. Something she thought I might have found. I smiled in the dark. She was breaking. And soon, I was going to snap her all the way in half. Madison thought she was careful. She thought her lies were airtight, her little secrets tucked away where I'd never find them. But the problem with liars is that they always slip up eventually. And when they do, all it takes is the right push to send everything crashing down. That morning, I decided to give her a little push. The RV hummed as we rolled down another endless desert road. Madison sat in the passenger seat, sunglasses on, arms crossed. Her usual pose when she was trying to pretend she wasn't nervous. Ryan lounged in the back, barely paying attention. I kept my eyes on the road and said, "So, Madison, did you ever figure out what happened to that gift?" She went completely still. Ryan looked up from his phone. "What gift?" I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Oh, nothing. Just something Madison had hidden in her suitcase. But she never actually gave it to anyone. Weird, right?" Madison snapped her head toward me. "Jake." Ryan sat up, frowning. "Wait, what was it?" I shrugged. "A wallet. Expensive one, too. Real leather, custom engraving, and everything." Ryan blinked. "No way. Who was it for?" Madison's jaw was clenched so tight, I thought her teeth might crack. "Jake, stop." I ignored her. "That's the thing. It wasn't for me." I turned toward her, raising an eyebrow. "So, honey, who was it for?" She was trapped. Ryan's eyes darted between us, his expression shifting. "Wait, seriously? Who was it for?" Madison forced a laugh. "It doesn't matter. It was just something I bought a while ago and forgot about." Ryan frowned. "You forgot about an engraved wallet?" She shot me a murderous look. "Jake, I swear to God, but I wasn't done yet." "Maybe it was for someone special," I mused. "Someone she thought deserved something nice. Someone she thought I wouldn't notice." Her knuckles turned white against her seatbelt. Ryan suddenly looked uncomfortable. He shifted in his seat, glancing toward the window. "All right, guys, let's just chill." I smiled, keeping my voice calm. "Oh, I'm perfectly calm." Madison hissed, "You're being insane." I tilted my head. "Am I? Or is it insane to think I wouldn't notice how you've been sneaking around? How you've been lying?" Ryan cleared his throat. "Okay, let's stop." But I wasn't stopping. Not now. I turned my attention back to Madison. "Tell me something. How long did you think you could keep this up? How long did you think I wouldn't notice?" Madison's breathing was shaky now. "I don't know what you're talking about." Ryan shifted again, suddenly restless. "Maybe we should pull over, take a break." But I wasn't pulling over. I tightened my grip on the wheel. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." Madison's hand twitched toward Ryan. A small, barely noticeable movement. But I saw it. And that was it. That was the moment I knew. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It was fact. She was cheating. And it was with him. The RV suddenly felt too small, too claustrophobic. The weight of betrayal pressed down on me, but I didn't let it show. Not yet. Instead, I let silence settle. Let the moment stretch just long enough for them to feel it. Then, I exhaled slowly and said, "I need gas. There's a station up ahead." And just like that, I let the conversation die. For now, the gas station was in the middle of nowhere, nothing but a single pump and a rundown shop with a flickering neon sign. I pulled in, killed the engine, and stepped out, feeling the heat press against my skin. Ryan got out next, stretching. "Man, I need a drink." He started toward the shop. Madison hesitated. "I should stay here," I said flatly. She froze. Ryan glanced between us, then muttered, "Yeah, I'll be inside." He disappeared into the shop, leaving just the two of us. Madison's fingers curled into fists. "Jake, what is your problem?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You tell me, Madison." Because I think we both know the truth. She shook her head. You're being ridiculous. I leaned in, voice cold. I saw you. Her breath caught. Saw me what? I stared at her, waiting. She licked her lips, forced a laugh, then tried to gaslight me one last time. Jake, you're acting crazy. You're paranoid. There's nothing going on. I smirked. Okay. She blinked. What? I stepped back, still smiling. Okay, you're right. Maybe I'm overreacting. She hesitated. She knew something was off, but I didn't let her see what I was really thinking, because I had just decided something. This game she was playing, it was over. And now? Now, it was time for revenge. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction. No houses, no towns, just miles of dust and sunburnt rock. The perfect place for someone to disappear. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, listening to Madison shift uncomfortably in the passenger seat. She hadn't said much since we left the gas station, but I could feel her eyes on me, calculating, waiting. She knew something was coming. She just didn't know what. Ryan, sitting in the back, tapped his fingers against his knee. He hadn't spoken either, probably too afraid to say the wrong thing, probably wondering if I had figured it out yet. He didn't have to wonder anymore, because today, I was going to let them know exactly how screwed they were. We rolled into another isolated rest stop, this one even smaller than the last. A single road stretched ahead, no other cars in sight. Just us and the nothingness. I pulled over, killed the engine, and let the silence settle. Madison glanced at me, wary. Why are we stopping? I turned off my phone's GPS. I need a minute. Ryan frowned. A minute for what? I looked at him through the rearview mirror, letting the tension stretch before finally saying, for the truth. Madison stilled. Jake, I held up a hand, cutting her off. No more lying. No more games. No more pretending like I don't know what's going on. I turned in my seat, eyes locking onto Ryan's. Tell me, man, how long? Ryan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I nodded, like I had already expected that. Right. You're not going to say it. You're just going to sit there and wait for me to spell it out. Madison's voice was tight. You're being paranoid. I laughed, shaking my head. No, I was paranoid weeks ago. Now I know exactly what's been happening. I tilted my head, watching her closely. You want to lie one more time? You want to tell me you weren't sneaking out of bed at night? That you weren't whispering in the front seat, laughing with my best friend while I was sleeping 10 feet away? Madison's throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. You're making this into something it's not. Ryan shifted, finally finding his voice. Dude, come on. You're taking things way too far. I turned back to him. Oh, really? Too far? Like when you decided to screw my wife. Ryan's face went pale. Madison snapped. That's enough. I smiled. There it is. She froze. That little crack in your voice? I continued. That's the sound of someone who just realized they lost. Madison's eyes burned into mine. Angry, cornered, desperate. Jake, stop this. You don't have proof of anything. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I tapped the screen, played the recording. Ryan's voice came through the speakers first. You think he knows? Then Madison. No, he's completely clueless. Ryan again. God, sneaking around in the RV is risky. Madison laughed. That's what makes it fun. The air in the RV turned toxic. Ryan's face twisted. What the hell, man? Madison lunged for my phone, but I yanked it away. You recorded me? I shoved the phone back into my pocket, my voice cold. You gave me no choice. Ryan shook his head. Dude, you're crazy. I turned fully in my seat, leveling him with a glare. No, Ryan. Crazy was trusting you. Madison's breathing was erratic now. Jake, listen. I messed up, but I held up a hand. Save it. I don't need your apologies. I don't need excuses. What I need is for you both to understand something. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. And what's that? I exhaled, slow and controlled. That you're not getting out of this clean. Madison's voice cracked. What does that mean? I started the engine. It means you'll see soon enough. She looked at me like she was trying to read my mind. But it didn't matter. My decision was made. I threw the RV into gear and pulled back onto the road, heading deeper into the desert. Madison and Ryan didn't know it yet, but I was taking them exactly where they deserved to be. Somewhere they'd never forget. The road stretched out ahead of us, endless and empty. No cars, no signs, just the dry Arizona desert swallowing everything in sight. Madison sat stiffly in the passenger seat, her fingers gripping the armrest so tight her knuckles had gone white. Ryan, behind us, shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking between me and the window, like he was measuring his odds of escape. Good. Let them squirm. Neither of them spoke. Not since I played the recording. Not since I exposed everything. They knew there was nothing they could say to fix this. No apology would put out the fire burning in my chest. No excuses would erase the image of them sneaking around behind my back. They had no idea where I was taking them, and I wasn't about to tell them. An hour passed, then another. The gas gauge dropped lower. The road signs disappeared. Madison finally broke first. "Jake," she said, her voice tight, controlled. "Where are we going?" I didn't answer. She inhaled sharply. "Jake." Ryan sat forward. "Dude, enough of this silent treatment. Just pull over and let's talk." I exhaled through my nose, keeping my eyes on the road. Talk? Like the way you two talked behind my back? Like the way you laughed about sneaking around in my RV? Madison swallowed hard. It wasn't like that. I smiled coldly. "Oh, no? Then tell me, Madison, what exactly was it like?" Silence. I nodded. "That's what I thought." Ryan rubbed his hands over his face. "Look, man, we screwed up, all right? I slammed my foot on the brake. The RV jerked violently, throwing them forward. Ryan hit the table with a grunt, Madison's hand slamming against the dashboard as the tires skidded across the dirt. The sudden silence that followed was deafening. I turned to look at them, my grip on the steering wheel relaxed, my voice calm. "Screwed up?" Ryan blinked, his breath heavy. "Yeah, I cut him off." "No, Ryan. You didn't screw up. You made a choice." Madison reached for my arm. "Jake, please, I pulled away. Get out." She froze. "What?" I unbuckled my seatbelt. "You heard me. Both of you. Out. Now." Ryan let out a nervous laugh. "Dude, it's 100 degrees out there." I smiled, cold and slow. "I know." Madison's voice cracked. "Jake, stop this. Just drive us to a town and we can—" "No," I cut her off. "You don't get to negotiate. You don't get to sit here and act like you still have some kind of say in this. You lost that right when you decided to stab me in the back." She shook her head, her breathing uneven. "This isn't funny. I'm not laughing." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, glancing at the barren landscape outside. "Dude, come on. You made your point." I grabbed the keys from the ignition and shoved them into my pocket. "Did I?" I leaned back, tapping my fingers against the wheel. "See, here's what I think. I think you two thought you were so clever. Thought I'd never find out. Thought you could sneak around behind my back and nothing would happen." I turned to Madison. "You thought you could have it all, didn't you? The husband at home, the best friend on the side. No consequences." She clenched her jaw, eyes wet but furious. "It wasn't like that." I scoffed. "Of course it was." I pushed the door open and stepped outside. The heat hit me instantly, dry and suffocating, but I welcomed it. It felt good, like fuel. I turned back to the RV. Last chance. "Get out, or I make you." Ryan cursed under his breath. Madison's eyes darted around, searching for an escape that didn't exist. Then, finally, they moved. Slowly, cautiously, like I was a wild animal that might attack if they made the wrong move. They stepped down onto the dirt, squinting against the harsh sunlight. Madison turned to me, voice trembling. "Jake, please, don't do this." I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a folded note. She frowned, confused, until I let it flutter onto the dashboard. She lunged for it, grabbing it before the wind could take it. Her eyes scanned the words, her lips parting in horror. "Hope you two lovebirds enjoy the sunrise. Nearest town is 50 miles west. No gas, no water, no cell service. Have fun." Her head snapped up. "Jake." I stepped back into the RV and slammed the door shut. Ryan pounded on it immediately. Jake, open the door. Madison grabbed the handle, twisting it desperately. Jake, don't do this. We'll die out here. I started the engine. Ryan's fist slammed against the glass. Come on, man. Jake. I revved the engine louder, drowning them out. Madison screamed, Jake, please. I looked at her one last time, locking eyes through the window. Then, without hesitation, I put the RV in drive. And I left them. Alone. In the desert. The road stretched ahead of me, empty and endless. The sound of Madison's desperate pounding faded into the distance, swallowed by the heat and dust. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. Free. They would make it back eventually, if they were smart. If they worked together. If they suffered. But by the time they found their way to civilization, I'd already be long gone. By the time they realized what had really happened, I'd already filed for divorce. By the time they picked up the pieces of their shattered little fantasy, I'd already started a new life. And they'd never forget this road trip, not for as long as they lived. The highway stretched before me, an open road leading to freedom. I could still see the dust cloud in my rearview mirror, rising from where I had left them, but it was fading fast. Just like them. Just like everything we were supposed to be. By now, Madison and Ryan would be panicking. The heat pressing down on them, the realization sinking in. No phone signal, no water. Just miles of nothingness in every direction. They had thought they were in control of this situation. They had thought I would just accept their betrayal, keep playing the fool while they laughed behind my back. They had been so wrong. I checked my GPS. There was a small town about 30 miles ahead, just far enough to get lost in for a while, to regroup, to figure out my next steps. By the time they made it back to civilization, I'd be long gone. I pulled into a dusty little motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where nobody asked questions and the front desk clerk barely looked up when I walked in. I paid cash, grabbed my key, and let myself into a room that smelled like old carpet and stale coffee. For the first time in days, I was alone. And I liked it. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, letting it all sink in. It was over. I had won. I should have felt relief. Maybe even satisfaction. But all I felt was empty. Not regret. Never that. I didn't regret what I had done. They had earned every second of it. But now that I was here, now that I had walked away, I realized something. For years, my life had revolved around Madison. Every decision, every sacrifice, every late-night drive, every argument I let go. I had made it all about her. And now? She was gone. So what the hell was I supposed to do now? I let myself sleep for the first time in what felt like forever. No tossing and turning. No glancing at the front seat of the RV, wondering if she was slipping out of bed again. No paranoia creeping into my dreams. Just silence. When I woke up, the sun was already high, baking the motel parking lot. I checked my phone. Nothing. Good. I took my time showering, grabbed a coffee from a gas station down the road, and sat outside on a bench, watching the town move around me. It was small, quiet, peaceful. The kind of place I never would have noticed before. And yet, here I was. I thought about my next move. I could drive further, disappear completely, start over in a place where no one knew my name. Or I could go home, finish what I started, file the papers, end this officially. As I was considering it, my phone buzzed. A message. From Madison. Jake, please. I'm sorry. Just talk to me. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the delete button. Then another message. You don't have to forgive me. Just tell me where you are. Please. I shook my head, exhaling slowly. She still didn't get it. She thought this was something that could be talked through. That if she said the right words, if she played the right cards, I'd undo everything. But I wasn't coming back. I wasn't hers anymore. I typed one word. No. Then I blocked her number. That night, I drove back toward home. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I was ready to finish this. I had the upper hand now. She had nothing left. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. Madison's car was there, but the lights were off. I walked up the steps, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. She was waiting for me, sitting on the couch, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. She looked wrecked. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she whispered, "You really did it." I set my keys on the table. Yeah. Her hands clenched in her lap. I thought you were bluffing. I thought, her voice broke, and she looked away. I thought you still loved me. I let the silence settle before answering. I did. Her breath hitched. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. But you killed that. She wiped at her face, struggling to keep herself together. Jake, please. Just listen. I messed up. I was stupid. But I don't want to lose you. I tilted my head. Then why did you throw me away? She squeezed her eyes shut. I don't know. I nodded, like I expected that answer. Yeah, that's the problem. Her voice was barely a whisper. I can fix this. I let out a quiet laugh. No, you can't. She reached for me. Jake, I took a step back. And that was it. That was the moment she finally understood. She broke down, sobbing into her hands, rocking slightly on the couch. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't sit beside her. I didn't feel anything. I just turned, walked to the bedroom, and grabbed the folder I had left on the dresser. The divorce papers. Already signed. Already final. I set them on the table in front of her. You have two choices, I said, voice calm. Sign them now, or sign them later. But we're done either way. She lifted her tear-streaked face, her lower lip trembling. I didn't wait for her to answer. I just walked away. And this time, I wasn't looking back. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like, and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.